Hello, everybody. I'm Tanya Williams, author of A Child-Free, Happily Ever After, and founder of the world first Child-Free Choices program. And happy International Child-Free Day to everybody. Now, I know some of you aren't technically in International Child-Free Day yet, but those of us that are ahead of you in time are. And I am super excited about this topic today. So, of course, there are many reasons to be child-free. Now, I explore a lot of these, as do Isabel and Therese, in the conversations and the interviews that we have with the child-free people in our child-free communities. So, like me, you might be child-free because you want freedom to focus on other more fulfilling things in your life, maybe to have a career without sacrifice, or maybe you just don't like kids. But have you thought about if it's a result of nature or nurture? Is it because of the way you were raised? Or do you think it's innate and you were just born that way, as Gaga says? So today's event is not going to be a typical debate or follow any strict debate guidelines like you used to, because I like to make my own rules. And I also want this to be fun and interactive and flexible, and we'll just see where the conversation takes us as well. So before we get started, I want to address some rules and some guidelines. So yes, it is a debate, and yes, I am sure that there'll be differing opinions about things, which is perfectly okay. But please always be respectful of others' opinions and be very non-aggressive in your approach or in your response. So we get enough of that crap from outside the child-free community. We certainly don't want to have it in here. So let's keep it fun and lighthearted. Now, if you are new to Zoom, you'll see various settings across the bottom of your screen there. So please always stay on mute unless you're invited to speak, and then I will unmute you. There's also a chat button at the bottom of the screen. I'm going to try and keep an eye on that as we go through. And if you've got questions, then please put it in the chat bar, and I'm going to try and keep track of all those as we go through the event. There's also a reactions button as well. I think everyone has this. I know I've got it on mine. So if you've got, you want to click on the little reactions button as we're going through, if you like something, feel free to do so. And also we're going to have a couple of sections where we will be inviting the audience to be part of the conversation. So if you do have something to say, you have a question, you want to share a story, then please do so. We're probably going to have a few people that want to participate, so just be considerate in terms of the timing of it and so forth, and keep your questions short if you can. So, as you may be aware, if you've seen my updates on Instagram during the week, unfortunately, Marsha Drew Davis was unable to join us this morning. Now, she has had a death in her family, and she's also caring for a very sick family member at the moment. She's got a number of personal issues that she's having to deal with. So she was very, very upset to miss out on today. But I've assured her we are all sending her much love and understanding, and sending her big hugs, because I know she's going through a little bit of a hard time at the moment. So we send her big kisses. I love Marsha. She is just an absolute spitfire. And, you know, she's just done amazing things for the child-free community. But let me introduce you to our lovely panel. So the fabulous and awesome Therese Schechter is an award-winning filmmaker and writer, and the founder of feminist production company Trixie Films. Her work fuses humour, activism, and personal storytelling to disrupt what's considered most sacred about womanhood. My so-called, she's on the, Canada Council for the Arts grantee for her Progress documentary, My So-Called Selfish Life. And I'm so excited about this coming out next year. The film examines what it means to say no to motherhood in a society that assumes all women want children, and exposes what's at stake when women are denied the right to control their own reproductive lives. Something that very passionate about. Love this topic. Her documentaries have screened from everywhere from Rio to Ankara to Seoul, and her work is in the collections of over 300 universities, non-profits, and libraries. She is amazing with the work she's doing, and Therese is on the side of nature today. And of course, the fantastic Isabel Firecracker. Isabel is the founder and firebrand of the Uprising Spark, with the objective to help modern child-free women, come into their own and be the very best version of themselves. Love that. She achieves this by creating meaningful content and by offering products and services designed to help child-free women evolve and grow. She is pragmatic, no nonsense, life purpose Igniter. Oh my God, that is a title and a half, that one. Isabel is also the host of the Honest Uproar podcast. If you haven't heard it, make sure you go and have a listen, in which child-free women come to tell their child-free stories. And it was created to foster a stronger sense of community and to connect empowered women around the world. Fantastic goal. Love it. Isabel is a child-free intersectional feminist. She is also a world traveler, an avid kite surfer, and loves dogs, just like me. And she is on the side of nurture today. So before I ask them both to share an opening statement and let's get into this conversation, I want to share a bit about my situation because this could be similar to many of you. So I never wanted to have children. I knew from a very young age. My sister, on the other hand, always wanted a tribe of kids. Now, I've got none by choice, and she has got 3 of her own. So she's a total homemaker and domestic queen, and I'm the total opposite. Like, I literally kill fake plants. Like, I am that bad. We both grew up in the same house, same loving parents, played with the same toys, same games, went to the same primary school, and had a lot of the same adult influences around us. Now, I'm older by 2.5 years. And anyone that meets us would never know we were related. I'm tall, olive skin, naturally curly hair, athletic, very independent, and love absolutely devour books and learning. Now, she is short, fair skin, straight hair, total homebody, has maybe read 3 books in her entire life. I swear she's adopted. But anyway, we are very different in many ways, one with 3 kids and one with none. So why do 2 siblings with the same upbringing want 2 totally different things in life when it comes to children? Is it due to nature or nurture? Therese, I'm going to invite you to open up your thoughts on that.
Nature. Well, I have a very similar story to Tanya. I have a younger sister. She's 6 years younger than me. I also knew from a young age that I didn't want children. I didn't babysit anybody. I didn't like baby dolls. I had Barbies. I loved my Barbies. I sewed clothes for them. I decorated their homes and I managed their music careers. Seriously. And so that was what I was all about. My sister tells me that she knew from a very young age that she really wanted children. She couldn't wait to have a family. She has 2 amazing sons, which means I get 2 amazing nephews and my parents get 2 amazing grandsons. So it all worked out actually very well. But also growing up, my very best friend in school felt a lot like my sister. She always knew she wanted kids. She loved babysitting. She loved babies. She would grab at any baby within reach. She did end up having 3 wonderful sons. And when I look at something like that, I can only think these experiences that I had growing up, well, there was something innate in us, in what we wanted and what we felt was right for our lives. I personally can't even imagine what it's like to want children. I ask my sister sometimes because I don't know. I told my mother when I was a teenager that I didn't want children, and my parents were very cool about it. But here's the interesting part of the story. I just assumed I would have children anyway, because that's what people did. I didn't even have words to express how unhappy I was about that, but I knew it would have to happen. So I want to throw out that it was by nature that I didn't want children, but the world was working very, very hard to nurture me into having children. I didn't in the end, but that nurturing to have children is what we call pronatalism. And that's something that, well, we all talk about a lot actually. So I'd like to keep that out there also, that I think that many of us feel that it is our nature to not want children, and yet we live in a world that wants to nurture us to have them.
Yeah.
So it's my opening statement.
Good. Love it. Great point. Isabel, over to you.
Nurture. Well, I believe that the desire to be child-free comes from the influence of external factors. And the reason is because, and you mentioned this, Therese, many women from many different countries and cultures, of course, are conditioned by society, since they can barely walk and talk, to act like future mothers. So we get, we're encouraged to play house, to have baby dolls. Yet many of us still decide later on in life that we don't want to become mothers because we have had experience or developed tastes that will put us on that path. Everything, I believe personally, that everything that is a choice in regards to how we want to live our lives comes from nurture, because choice is shaped by our personalities and our experiences. On the other hand, there have been cases of women who were child-free, and at some point in their lives, they decided that they wanted to have a child and become a parent. Either have one like biologically or adopt one. So something changes in their lives. It can be something that they experience, or it can be just as simple as developing a desire that they didn't have before, and they become mothers, so they stop being child-free. So if it wasn't determined by nurture, this shouldn't happen. In my case specifically, I always thought I was going to be a mom. Like I had that sort of feeling that I wanted to be a mom ever since I was very young. And then a few years ago, I was like, maybe that's not for me. And it was somebody asked me the question, have you thought about, becoming child-free or just embracing the child-free lifestyle? Do you know that having children is a choice? And before it hit me, I just thought, this is what I want. But then I realized that in my scale of priorities, my freedom is a lot higher than being a mom. So I think it all just comes down to choice. It all comes down to our experiences. It all comes down to, the conscious decisions that we make for our lives that are shaped by all these external factors since we're conceived. And I also want to add that it has been proven by at least one sociological study that this natural instinct to become a mother is a myth. Like there's no scientific evidence to show that women are instinctively driven to become mothers, just like there is no scientific evidence to show that women are instinctively driven to not become mothers. So I think it's all about, personality and things that we learn and experiences.
Definitely, the biological clock has been proven scientifically. I think that it is not real.
Yeah,
that is correct.
Yeah,
it was made up by a journalist, a guy.
Good old journalist. Exactly, a male journalist at that.
As the feminist movement was rising, people were throwing whatever they could at it, including this biological clock thing.
Now, Therese, what do you have to say to Isabel's points there about the fact that it's all due to nurture?
Well, if anybody saw my social media posts, I did threaten to change sides mid-debate, which I'm not going to do. But I'm playing along here. But here's the thing. I think it varies. I think it varies for people. We put out a call for all the folks on our Facebook and Instagram page to tell us how they feel. And we got a lot of responses. The majority were nature, but there were people who were definitely nurturers as well. So I don't think there's sort of a universal thing. And just like Isabel says, we're all sort of different. So we have different life experiences.
Yeah.
Also, I think it's very hard to tease out social influence from what we feel deep inside, because we are so immersed in our social influences. Yeah. So it's always very hard to know where things come from.
Yeah. And I think perhaps, and I know some of the comments we saw as well were, it could be a combination of both, that maybe, that we don't want them, but then our experiences and stuff that happens in our life either reinforces that or changes our mind as well.
Right. Yeah. And I have lots of great little quotes from people and the comments that they've left that I'll share
Please share.
later or now.
Yeah.
Do you want me to share a couple now?
A couple
now. Well, there are people who are like, I remember at 6 years old telling my mother I didn't want to have kids. I've known since I was 3 that I didn't want to have kids. I've known since 15 that I didn't want to have kids. I'm quoting directly. I was 4 when I told my mom I didn't want to have kids, but did want to have kittens. This one is funny and sad at the same time. Apparently my father never wanted children, so I guess I get it from him.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. And yeah, look, then, and everyone has their own reasons, right? And it's interesting, some of the conversations that came up around people who believed that was nurture were due to experiences they had in their life, and quite negative experiences in their childhood. So they've gone through that in their childhood and decided, hey, I don't want to, you know, I had a bad childhood, therefore, you know, motherhood's not for me. I don't want that in my life. So again, you know, experiences, I think, certainly play a big part of it.
Yeah, I have good quotes on that too, but I need to win the debate first, and then I'll share.
I want to add to Tanya's point, though, about, you know, some people being shaped by bad experiences and they're driven to make certain choices. In my case specifically, I was driven to embrace the child-free lifestyle, mainly for very positive experiences. You know, the freedom that I experience, and I can do whatever I want with my time and like travel everywhere without having to think about, you know, another mini me, or, you know, that for me is just, it has so much value. It's so positive that I don't want to give it up.
Yeah.
And it's one of the big reasons why I'm child-free.
I'm with you as well. The freedom thing, and just like going, oh, I'm just going to duck up and go shopping, or I'm just going to go sit by the pool and read, or I'm just going to sit and watch a movie and have a glass of wine, and not have to worry about picking kids up from soccer, or going, oh, hang on, I need to put that money aside for school uniforms, or, you know, any of that sort of stuff. And I think as child-free people, we probably, well, if you've got nieces and nephews, I think we sort of get the best of both worlds, because you can get that time with children, and that bit of a, I suppose, fix, if you want to call it that. But we can also go, there you go back to mummy and daddy while I go, I go home and it's nice and quiet. So I think, yeah, we definitely get both sides. Isabel, any more statements in regards to why you think it's not nature?
Well, no, I actually was going to say that I think I agree with both of you when you say, you know, it's like a combination of the two things, or because I have met a lot of child-free women who tell me, I've known since forever. Like I was a baby, I was barely learning how to talk, and I knew that I didn't want to have any kids. And I can't relate to that feeling because it wasn't my specific case, but that doesn't negate it. It doesn't mean that doesn't happen. So some women are actually born, I guess, with that, knowing that very, very clearly. Just as some of us are born with certain things that are also very clear since we're very, very young in terms of what we like or what we don't like.
Well, I wonder if anyone is actually born with that feeling, because if you think about how we are raised, so from the moment we come out as babies, we're given dolls to play with and saying, oh, you know, this is, you know, you're going to be a mummy one day. So we're literally fed these stories from birth. We're given dolls to play with as girls. We're given, you know, the story we're hearing about living happily ever after, and the prince coming along and rescuing us and all that sort of stuff. The games that we play, the stories that we're read, all of that from day one is like rammed into us as girls. So it's very much part of how we are brought up in society, by our families and all that sort of stuff. So I'm wondering if it is actually, innate, that it is purely to natural, because we're not told any other way. Like, it's not like we, you know, come out and all of a sudden we're getting told when we're, you know, 2 or 3 that, oh, one day you might be a mummy or you may not be a mummy. Like, that's not a conversation that anyone has with their children. Like, you're never told that you have a choice. You're only ever told about the fact that, oh, one day you will be a mum. That's it.
Yeah.
Like, there's no other conversation that is had.
Yeah, no, it's true. I mean, most of us have been told when we were kids, wait until you have your own kids, or you'll understand when you're a mother. You know, it's not even if, it's when.
Yes.
And that happens, that has happened to most women around the world, for sure. It's cultural.
Right.
That
Right.
when is most definitely a big part of it, because it's not about if you have children, it's always when you're going to have children. I think that's
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's really true. That's why I feel like it's very hard to tease out all the influences that we have in our lives and all the situations we have. And I'm going to throw in one more thing, which is if you don't have access to reproductive services and you get pregnant, it's really not your decision anymore. Whether you wanted a child or not, you're going to have it now because you don't have any options.
Yeah.
So it's complicated. It's complicated how people end up in one place or another. There are other people who know they never want to have kids, and then they get pregnant and have a child, and they're delighted. They're delighted. So I know people don't want to hear that. It's bad for the brand, but it happens, it happens. Just like people think they want children and they have one and they realize they've made a terrible mistake.
Yeah.
It's human nature.
I agree. I don't think it's black and white. I think there's plenty of gray in there. And I know everything that I sort of in doing in the conversations I'm having, I keep reiterating the C word, choice, choice, choice. It's all about the choices that we're making and making the right choices for our own lives. And I think that's really important.
Yeah, and I will say that we don't even always have the choices. Like you need good options to make a good choice. And if you don't have any good options, you can't make a good choice.
That's true.
So,
and I go back to what you were saying before about birth control. If people don't have access to that, then that might not necessarily be a choice. But I think also as well in some third world countries and very traditional countries and so forth, women don't even know they have a choice because they aren't told they have a choice because it's basically as part of the upbringing and society and culture that this is what you do. So therefore they don't even understand that there is this choice available to them. And I think education into those areas is going to be such an important part of letting women know that there are actually choices.
Yeah,
and I want to shout out something. Oh, go ahead. I was going to shout you out, Isabel. Isabel wrote an amazing essay on Medium. This is how I first heard about Isabel's work. And she wrote about what it was like growing up in her country and the expectations on women and the value placed on women around children. So that's an extraordinary essay.
Where can we read that, Isabel?
It's on Medium. It's called An Open Letter to Megan Dom.
Yep.
Yeah. This was, I don't know if you guys read, well, Megan Dom, she published an article saying that we should just completely scrape out the word child-free and stop using it because we were all bragging. I think she used the word bragging or anyway.
Was she,
and so,
like she was,
I'm sorry?
What was her stance? Was she doesn't agree with people being child-free? Was she?
No, she is child-free herself. But she was saying like, we need to stop gloating. That's the word she used. We need to stop gloating. So let's stop using the word child-free because it has a bad connotation in the sense that when you talk about something being sugar-free or fat-free or smoke-free, it's because that first thing before free is a bad thing. Therefore, saying that we're child-free is like we're releasing ourselves from some type of evil, basically. But this was a very one-sided point of view from a woman from a first world country who has had a very privileged life, in comparison to most women from third world countries. So I wrote an open letter to that. This is like what Therese is talking about, telling her how suffocating the pressure can be. I'm Latin American, and these are very Catholic, traditional countries. And the pressure here can be very suffocating. So much so that most women, like you mentioned, Tanya, don't even know that they have a choice.
Yeah.
We grow up thinking we have to have kids because this is what we do. You know, this is what everyone does. And we don't even question it. Yeah. But to that comment that you said about, not knowing that it is a choice, it also happens to women in first world countries. It's just the culture is just so prenatalist that even women that have had access to education, don't realize that they have a choice, and until it's too late sometimes, which is such a shame. There's someone that I know who's child free as well. She wrote an article on the Huffington Post, and she got a message from somebody she knew. This lady had already 3 kids. And she wrote to her saying, if I had known that this was a choice, I wouldn't have had 3 children. And she already had 3. So, but one thing that caught my attention not long ago was a comment from somebody who lives in, it's a country in the Middle East. I don't remember which one it was, but they were telling me, if I tell someone that I'm child free, I could literally get killed here. Like, it's just the weight of becoming a parent in some countries that are very profoundly fundamentalist in terms of religion and in terms of just that type of societal pressure is just so huge that we can't even like imagine it. I mean, it was really hard for me coming out as child free in Latin American country, but it's even harder from other people, for other people, sorry, in countries that are even more traditional and even more straight in terms of this is what you do, and you don't even question it, and don't even dare question it.
I used a word there before about privileged, and in most Western society, a lot of English speaking countries and so forth, we probably are really privileged in most respects. I know certainly here in Australia we have access to everything that we need. I know though in some parts of the US it can be hard to get access to birth control and things like abortion and that sort of thing, and especially with the current president that you guys have over there. What do you say to that, Therese?
Denying women access to reproductive services is American as apple pie. I mean, our current president has the power to continue that tradition, but it's a long, long tradition. I think, what do I have to say about how restrictive it is?
Like, I get angry about it. Like, I just...
Yeah. Here's the thing. I think that, we say, well, abortion is legal in the United States. It is legal. It is legal. On paper, it's legal. But it's, for many, many people, it is not accessible. You could live in a state where there's only one clinic in the entire state that performs abortions. If you have a job where you can't take time off, you could get fired because of the time it's going to take you to get to that clinic or to drive out of state to get to that clinic. Yeah. Oh, you have to have a car, of course, and you have to be able to put gas in it, and you have to be able to put yourself up for a couple of nights somewhere else. So just from an economic standpoint, it may be legal, but it is not accessible for a lot of women, lower income women, women of color are hit hard with these restrictions. A lot of the southern states have this kind of thing going on. So, but I think it's a bigger issue than that, because like when you talk about reproductive justice, which has to do with a much bigger issue, a framework devised by Black women to deal with the much larger issues around reproduction and social justice, it gets even more complicated. Having children in a world that is safe, where their children will have access to medical care and won't get shot, and the mother will have medical care, carrying a child, and afterwards. Black women have the highest maternal mortality rate in this country. Anyway, I'm going off, but it's even more complicated than those asshole Republicans who keep messing with our abortion rights.
Yeah. I think you made a really good point there before about the fact that even though it's legal, being accessible is a totally different. That's a really important point that I think people forget. Yeah.
Absolutely.
I've got a few chats coming through here, so I'm going to open it up to the audience shortly as well. But I know Carly's made a comment. It's also elective. So in Texas right now, it's actually banned because of the pandemic. So that's a really valid point as well. So if it is an elective surgery, I know a lot of places around the world, elective surgeries aren't possible. So obviously you know, if you don't want to have kids at the moment and something happens, then wow, that's yeah, that your choice is sort of, I suppose, taken away to a certain degree, isn't it?
Completely, yeah. Unless you can afford to fly somewhere, and you can't even fly right now. Carly, I didn't realize that that had gone through. I know that several states were using this COVID opportunity very opportunistically to make abortions even less accessible, but I didn't know that it had actually happened legally in Texas. So I'm sorry.
There you go. So what I might do is unmute everybody. So we don't have multiple people sort of coming up and chatting all at once. If you've got something to say, can you maybe put it in the chat, and I will then go through and yeah, and invite you in. Let me go through the chat. We've got a few comments here. Jojo, we've made some comments here. I'm just going to unmute you. Okay, you should be able to unmute yourself now. You there, Jojo?
Yes, I'm here.
There you go.
Hi.
How are you?
Good, thank you. How are you?
Good, good. Do you want to share some of your thoughts around this topic?
Oh, sure. Well, when like I said in the chat, when I was growing up, I thought that, you know, I wanted kids, and because like somebody mentioned, like we are conditioned to, oh, you're a girl and you hear some dolls and practice like holding your baby and playing house and you know, get conditioned for what's to come in the future. And then as I got older, I actually do love kids. I love them when they go home to their own house the best. Like, I want to spend some time with you. You're great. I love to see you, like, all your development. Okay, bye. Go to your own parents. But so I'm not like anti-kids. I just don't want that responsibility. And I'm actually a nanny. And being a nanny, I've seen, you know, many families, and it's not what TV or, you know, movies or society make it out to be. It's not like this perfect, like, oh, okay, sweetheart, it's not Pleasantville. And until you are like, I feel like a lot of people don't get the interaction to be inside of a home and really see what goes on. And I feel like a lot of people have children and then they realize, like, oh, this is a big responsibility. It's more than just like, oh, we got married and we love each other and this is the next step. And I feel like that's what society and TV has made it out to be, like, that's just what you do next. But a lot of people then, when they're there, then they realize, like, oh my gosh, this is a lot more than it's made out to be.
So Jojo, do you feel that nurture is the main reason why people are choosing to be child-free?
I think it's a combination of both. I really do. And for some people, it may be a solid one way or a solid another way, but I feel like it's a combination.
Yeah. I think, yeah, I mean, I agree. It's probably a combination, but I'm probably more towards the nurture side slightly, just because of my own experience.
Yes, absolutely. Sure. I agree.
Awesome. Well, thank you for sharing.
Thank you.
Cool.
I want to add to that, to what Jojo just said, that motherhood is so romanticized everywhere. It's crazy. And It is true. I mean, some people are like, yeah, being a parent is going to be awesome. And then when they become parents, they're like, it's just so hard. They don't really understand what it is, because society is they try to make it seem something that it's not, basically. So
Yeah, I have someone who I follow on social media, and I'm pretty sure most of her stuff on Instagram is totally staged, because she has these perfect photos of her and a little girl, and they just look so that she's dressed up perfectly, and it's just, and you just go, I know your life is all not sunshine, and it's not all sunshine and lollipops like you're making it out to be, but that's all she shows. So it's she's really showing this unrealistic version of what motherhood is about. But that's not uncommon, because that's typically what happens. It's like they don't want to show the dirt and the, you know, all the gritty stuff. They just want to show all pretty and dressed up and look at my little angel. And it's like, they need to be, I think mothers should be showing both sides of what it looks like, because then people who haven't had kids or are undecided get to see a bit of reality.
Well, yeah, Instagram, you know, for example, is not where you might want to go for reality. But if you want a good laugh, I mean, the Insta moms are amazing. They're all white. They're all super skinny. They all look very affluent. I don't know if they are or not. And they're all holding those restaurant boards that say, like, the greatest gift, my children, that kind of thing. Yeah, I love them. I just love them. Feel free to send them to me if you find them. Can I just jump in and say that someone who showed up today is new to the world of Childfree, Annette.
welcome.
Just want to welcome you. I'm so glad that you have found some more people who validate the way you were living your life, and it's great that you're here. And you know, jump on in if you want.
Yeah.
But welcome, Annette.
Let me just go. I was just going to grab, get Holly to, do you want to say something, Holly? You've made some notes in the chat here, and then we might go down to Annette, and she can share a bit of her story. Are you there, Holly?
Yeah. Hi, can you hear me?
Hey, how are you?
Hi.
I'm all right. Yeah. Yeah, I think for me, it's having people, I guess when you've grown up, that women that are child free. I had an auntie, she died a couple of years ago, but she never got married, and she didn't have any kids, and she lived this amazing life. She went and, you know, where I'm from, the southwest of Scotland, and she, you know, went and lived in Canada for a while, and then she moved to London, and she'd been all over the place, you know, and done lots of different degrees and all the rest of it. And I remember my mum made a comment to me at one point when I'd been very scathing about a guy I was dating, and didn't want to take it any further with him. And she was like, if you're not careful, you'll end up like your Auntie Anne. And I was like, well,
Wow.
I don't know. That didn't look too bad to me, quite frankly. Like she had a pretty cool life.
Sure.
And she just, you know, it's just, I guess she didn't meet someone. Things might have been different, I guess, if she had met someone in her life. But the fact that I grew up with this auntie who had been child free, and just, she went traveling all the time. She went on cruises, she went all over the world. I think that's really important, and probably part of that kind of nurture thing, that you have someone that you're like, they didn't do the 2.4 children thing. Interesting, you know? So I think that's important for understanding the choice, you know? I don't know if she would have said it was choice. I don't know actually if she would have liked to have had kids. I didn't actually discuss it with her, sadly. But yeah, I think that's really important, to grow up and see those other women that have treaded the boards before us.
And you know, her generation as well. I mean, how old was she when she was
72 when she died, and that was only a couple of years ago. So yeah, she would be like 74, 75 now if she was still with us. So
I know, like in that generation, like it's very rare to come across women who are child free, because a lot of the women, whether they, I mean, a lot of the, I know, my husband has an auntie, well, not a real auntie, but you know what you call your, and they never had kids, but that was because they couldn't. So that was a different situation. But it's very rare. I mean, Marsha's obviously one, but you know, it is a rare thing in that generation that there were child-free women rather than childless women. So I think the distinction is really important as well.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yep. But I think also the sadness that's attached to it, you know, like I had another auntie and uncle on the other side of the family that didn't have kids together, and I don't know if that was a childless or child-free. Like I wouldn't ask them. It feels a bit too personal to bring it up. Yeah. But it is just seeing that kind of, I guess that not having kids doesn't have to be sad, you know. I think that's the thing that struck me in the past few years, is when I see it's changing that mindset from a couple that don't have kids to thinking, God, think all the cool things they're going to get to do. Instead of previously, I would have looked at them and thought, no, oh, that's a shame, you know. And it's patronizing. And yeah, we're like, me and my fiance, we're going to be that couple, you know. And people will be wondering if it's sad, but I've been quite vocal. I'm just telling everyone, no, we're child free. We're not having them. It's just not happening. But yes, so
right. I think we all need to be vocal around our choice, because the more we are all vocal and saying we're child free and we're happy and we love our lives, the more other people see us that may not have that courage to be so vocal about it, and they get to understand what our lives look like and so forth. And I think that's really important, that we all have a voice around this. Cool. Thank you, Holly. Therese, Isabel, do you have anything to add to that?
I'd love to hear from more of the folks who are here, and I'd love to see your lovely faces also, although I understand not everybody likes to do that, so no pressure. But.
Okay, I'm going to unmute.
Hello, hello, everyone.
Oh my God, look at those faces.
Nice.
Hey.
I love it. Thank you.
Yeah, it's so cool to see other Childfree women from around the world. I love it.
Okay, you should all be able to. Yeah. Annette, you there, Annette?
Hey there. Yep, I'm here. Hey. It won't let me show my face. It says that the host has it off for the moment, maybe. But you can hear me, and that's good news. There we go. Thank you. Hi. I'm Annette. As they mentioned, I am brand new to this. This is my first time speaking out loud about it to anyone besides my husband, who's all on board. So, yay.
Nice.
But it feels so good, I could cry to be able to like other people.
Know that you're not alone. Okay, there's just a little background noise, guys. Yeah, do you want to share a little bit about your story, Annette?
Yeah, so I'm not sure how I felt about things growing up. I think I just assumed I was going to have kids. It didn't cross my mind. But definitely I'm 33 now. And, you know, since my mid-20s, since that kind of started becoming a reality, I knew I definitely didn't want any. But I kind of thought I would change my mind later, because everyone kept telling me like, oh, but, you know, when you meet the right person, you'll want to. Met the right person, been with that person 11 years. I just don't want any. I'm happy. We're happy. I tried talking to my parents a little bit about it. That was real bad. That was real bad. You know, they just, oh, but he thought it's the best gift. And honestly, it's exhausting, because we're their world and I want them to have a life outside of us. And I think that kind of has influenced it for me. It's like, no, I do lots of really great things. I don't mind other people's kids. That's great. I like being an aunt. I like, you know, I don't want to do it 24 hours a day. But I guess when, you know, like when I broached it with my family, I didn't know how to talk about it. I guess they would come up with the same kinds of things that I've read now on your all's pages, like typical things, right? Well, who's going to take care of you when you're old? You're going to be lonely. What if your husband dies? Then you'll be alone. Like, gee, you know. But now that I've at least a little bit dipped my toes, either A, I don't have to explain myself, or B, just there are things like I just don't want any. So anyway, I am thankful to let it out, and hoping I can, you know, find other people just to vent about it with a little bit.
Well, welcome. I mean, I'm glad that you found some child-free communities, and look, I think, you know, most people are really, yeah, it's fantastic.
So thank you for posting this. As far as the nature nurture thing, I think for me, it may have just been, it's been nurtured out of me from a lot of directions, but I don't know if it was from birth or not, because obviously that nurture had been stuffed on there from the beginning. So.
Thank you for sharing. I think it's great when people share their stories. I think it's really important that we all are vocal about sharing our stories. So don't be afraid to ever share.
Yeah, thanks.
Cool. Fawn has made a comment which I think is really important as well. Are you there, Fawn?
Fawn, there she is. You
there?
have to unmute her, Tanya.
Thank you. Yeah, it wasn't letting me unmute myself. Hello. I love hearing when people are like, oh, I just discovered blah, 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 Childfree, because I remember having this conversation about 25 years ago when Eleanor Schachter came out with her book, The Baby Boom, and having this conversation with a bunch of people about, well, you don't have to have kids. I do not, like Therese, I have no memory of ever wanting kids. In fact, I remember being, a few years before puberty, being in an absolute panic because I thought, well, I don't want to have kids, but I'm going to go through puberty and then I can get pregnant and then I can't prevent it. They're going to make me have kids. I'm going to be forced to have kids. And I remember being, slightly older than that and, learning that there was such a thing called birth control and realizing, oh, my choices are not, being single and celibate and never having sex and never having relationships or having an uncontrolled number of babies, because I thought that was my choice. And do I think it's because I literally can't remember ever feeling the slightest bit of urge? I really do believe that it's nature. But I also have friends who are adamantly child-free, or in the case of a couple of them, phrased it as childless by choice. And then suddenly we're like, I'm 40 and I want to have a baby, and now they have kids. And maybe it was nature for a while and then hormones changed, or maybe it was nurture and then their inherent maternal instinct broke through. I don't believe that there is any such thing as inherent maternal instinct, but I am told by people who really want kids that when you want them, you really want them. So I'm going to take their word for it, just like they take my word that I don't. And so part of my whole journey with all of this has been taking my own horror at the idea of being forced to have kids against my will. And I've become an abortion rights activist. And I've spent most of my adult life on that. Ask me about abortion rights.
No, I'm very pro-choice. I don't think anyone has the right to tell you what to do with your body.
Exactly. And so part of it for me is you do what you want to do, not what other people tell you to do, not what other people expect you to do. And for a very, very long time, when people were telling me, oh, you should have kids, you'd be such a great mom, I'm like, actually, no, I wouldn't. Oh, you'll change your mind. Yeah, but if I don't, I can't put them back. And just, other people make perfectly good kids. There's no reason why I personally should.
Yeah.
I'm good with that. I have other things. And then when a friend of a friend told me at a party to my face, and granted she had been drinking, that she pitied me for not wanting children because I had, and I quote, cut myself off from the future of the human race.
Oh my God.
I looked at her and I said, oh, and your little brats have been such a gift to the world. and I haven't spoken to her since for perfectly good reasons. So that's where I am with that. I'm a little bit angry about it.
It's really important that I know I've got friends with kids and I've got friends with no kids, and most of my oldest friends who have been friends with since I was in primary school have got children. But I think one thing, and the reason why we are still friends, is they've always been very respectful of my choice. I've been very vocal from a young age, going through school that I didn't want children. And we respect each other's choices.
Right, exactly. And that's what it comes down to.
You have to go, one of my best 4 children, I say I love going and visiting her and her kids, and she loves coming here and visiting me without the kids. But we respect each other's choices. And I think that's the only way that friendships can survive when one's child free and one isn't, is that you just have to be respectful of the choice that you've made.
Exactly. I mean, I am I'm the godmother of one of my best friend's kids. I am the sort of adopted auntie of another of my best friend's kids. They're so much more interesting now that they're older, and I'm happy to.
Yeah, cool. Thank you so much for sharing.
You're welcome. It was a pleasure.
I'm pro-choice all the way. I think, yeah, especially in countries where, you know, access to this stuff is just like abortion is just not, you know, great, as Therese said. Therese, Isabel, do you have anything else to add?
I just wanted to say to Dawn, Fawn's story about this friend and that appalling comment that she made to you. Something similar happened to me, but it was the other way around. Like, I was at a wedding, and one of my oldest friends, we've known each other since we were like 6 years old. She has a kid. And I had just like a month prior, I had my tubes tied. And I told her about it. And she was like, why? And I was like, I don't want to have kids. And then we started having this conversation. And the result was, she told me, I wish I had known I had a choice. Like, I love my husband, I love my kid, but I wish I'd known I had a choice. I wouldn't have them, like, right now. So it was, you know, that realization to me was, it was heartbroken. I was heartbroken for her, but in the end, I think it actually definitely boils down to education. Yeah.
Yeah. I'd like to ask Stav to be part of this conversation as well. He's made some, I agree with he's just made a comment here about we don't have to criticize mothers to validate our life choices. Are you there, Stav?
I can't hear you, Stav.
Make sure.
Stav, you have to turn on your mic on your end, I think.
Yeah, you should be right on. You're not muted on my end.
No, she's not.
Can you hear me now?
Stav?
Yes.
Yes.
Great. Yeah, no, fantastic conversation. It's something that, I've only just recently discovered there's a movement for it, because I grew up in a Greek Australian household where having children was, you know, a success for women. Everyone around me was doing it, but I knew, well, when I was a teenager, I thought that's the only choice you have. And I remember having friends of the family, a couple with no children. I felt so sorry for them. And then when I turned 25, after I'd started traveling, I realized that it wasn't for me. And I'm lucky that I was born in a place like Sydney where I do have choices, because I'm the first woman in my family. Like my mother and my grandmother, they didn't have choices about life. You know, they grew up in small villages where the social expectations. And I think it's really, it's very interesting, the name of your, you know, the selfish life, because that's often what's spoken about. But what's interesting is that, you know, there's questions asked of women that don't want to have children, but it doesn't happen the reverse. And I just think we have to, like, I think the point about being respectful is absolutely critical. You know, it doesn't have to be one is better or one is worse. You know, I think there are pros and cons. And in fact, when I was 38, I was in a relationship and I thought that, you know, I have to make a decision. And I remember I was doing voluntary work in India and sitting in my guest house and writing the reasons for and the reasons against. And I had a long list of reasons why I didn't want to have children. And my partner at the time was ambivalent. But I had no good reason to actually have a child. But I do have friends that have felt very strongly. So I do think there is a maternal sort of urge, or whatever you want to call it, for some, you know, for some women. But I don't think it's universal. And I think, you know, it's great to have forums like this and books, because it was, I'm 54 now, but when I was, you know, 28, there weren't so many books around to actually, you know, help the analysis. And so I do think nurture is really important. The same way I became a vegetarian when I was 28, it was because of just environmental, traveling the world, and also having lived in Asia for the last 14 years, where having children is such an essential part of life. I mean, for me, it's environmental reasons. I mean, I can say it here at this forum, but I wouldn't in other forums. I wouldn't want to be having children now in terms of what's happening with the pandemic, with the climate crisis, you know, with inequality rising, even though I'm a privileged minority where I live and what I do and my life circumstances. But I think it is a very troubling time. But I love the conversation and the points that were made about there being respect and, you know, and kind of acceptance of whatever life choices we make. But what's interesting is if you look at the data, I think the latest figures are about 25% of women are never going to have children in Australia or similar countries.
Close to 1 in 4 now that are choosing not to have children. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's 25% of, and then there was some studies done also in richer Asian countries like Japan and Korea and Singapore, where women are actively choosing, when they have a choice, when they have their economic independence, not to have children. So yeah, thanks for a fabulous conversation, and I really enjoy your posts as well.
Awesome, thank you. I think, look, I one of the points you made there about criticizing mothers' choices, one of the things that I do not like and I do not agree with in some of these child-free groups on Facebook is their total disrespect for parents and calling them breeders and just horrible names. And I just think if you want someone to respect you for your child-free choice, you have to respect them for their choice to be. I don't agree with that total lack of respect. I just think we should all just be respecting each other's choices and be fine with that, because you can't expect respect if you don't give it to others.
Yeah, and I also think it's important as women that we don't have to say, oh, well, I've achieved, you know, those traditional measures of success. I've got a career, I'm able to travel, or I've got money, or any of these things. I think, you know, life choices, whatever they are, I think have to be accepted. And I think these sort of, you know, these traditional materialistic measures of success are really damaging for all of us. People make assumptions about me. They say, oh, well, you wanted to travel the world and do aid work. Actually, that wasn't, that may have been part of it. But I think everyone has, you know, lots of complex reasons for making their choices. So yeah, fantastic work.
Thank you. And everyone's version of success is different as well. What's one person deems successful, another person might not. And exactly, everyone has their own unique reasons. And I just think the more we're vocal about that and we share that, I just think that's a great thing. Therese, Isabel, comments? Thought? I
have a quick comment, which is on our Facebook. I have a Facebook page called My So-Called Selfish Life. We also believe in respectful comments. I am the comment police. But also we have parents on the page, which is great. No, they're not writing about their gender reveal parties or whatnot. You know, they're there because they support people's decisions, and they're interested in this. And it's partly because they are raising the next generation of kids, and they want to make sure that they're empowering their kids to know that they have options. So I just wanted to throw that out there. And there are people who are on our Facebook page that don't like that because, yeah, I don't have to tell you. So
I agree with that. I've got a good friend who's the same. She said, and she read my book and she went, you know what, there are points that you raised that I hadn't thought of before. And her daughter's now 13 or 14. And she said the conversations she's having with her now are more around, well, if you have children. So her daughter will be like, oh, Mum, when this happens when I have kids? And she's, well, you might not have kids. If you choose to have kids. So she's very, very mindful now of making sure her daughter knows that she has a choice. Mm-hmm. So I think more parents are doing that. I just think and it's great that there's parents on your page.
Yeah, it's great. And some people are unhappy about it, but there are a lot of places on Facebook you can go and be in your little child-free bubble and use all the nasty slang you want. It's just not on My So-Called Selfish Life.
Yeah, I agree.
So as I started looking for groups like last week, like I said, I fell into a lot of random groups, and I started seeing that there are subcategories. I actually didn't even know the word child-free. I was just like Googling, you know, people that don't want kids. And then that came up. But then I started getting into all of these different groups, and it was really hard to decipher which were groups that I wanted to be in. But then I think I fell into either Tanya or yours, Isabel's Instagram or something. And then it started recommending pages to me. And so I think I'm on the right track. But if you all have like recommendations for groups or pages that are more positive and respectful, please send them my way. I'd appreciate that.
Yeah. I mean, certainly I know Therese is, Isabel and myself, I think we all try and make sure we have really respectful conversations. There's groups that, I can't remember the name of one. There's one that's really bad on Facebook.
Child-Free Chicks Confidential.
It could be that one, where the comments from people are just horrible. Kids are the spawn of the earth, and like they're just horrible comments, and they're making parents and stuff. And I think that there's been a couple I'm just like, yeah, I don't want to be part of that conversation.
Yeah, okay. It's the internet. there's a place for everyone on the internet. But, you know, if you come to my house, you follow my rules. But, you know, some people need that. It's fine. Just not in my house. That's all.
Totally agree.
I never,
Sorry.
sorry, I never understood, like, when you're talking with somebody and they just get like upset and like super angry, like when they find out that you don't want to have kids. I'm like, I'm happy for you that you have kids. If you would like kids, have all the kids that you'd like. I'm going to be so happy for you. You know why? Because they're not going to be living at my house. So you shouldn't be mad that I'm not having kids, because whatever I do, it doesn't affect your life.
I totally get that. Like, one of the things that drives me crazy, which I cannot understand, is why someone else gets upset about a choice that I've made for my life. I'm like, I'm not asking you to do it. I'm just saying this is the choice that I've made. Why are you angry at that? I don't understand it at all. I will never understand. I will never understand why someone gets so upset about the choice that I've made that has no impact on them whatsoever.
Right? It's like, I'm not telling you to do anything or not to do anything. I'm just being me. You do you, I do me. Let's be happy.
I know, it's crazy. Hey, Margaret, are you there? Margaret?
I am.
How are
It's very late here, so I'm wearing my pajamas. I'm so sorry.
I love it. More power to you.
Midnight. Okay.
you? You're over in
Okay. Yes, I was typing away there. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
Yes.
Just the I suppose bit I wanted to say. So I'm in Ireland, and I did some research here a few years ago about how women made the decision to have children or not. And I suppose something that really struck me was that basically, whether people thought they were going to have children or not, they thought everybody felt really unsupported in the decision, which I thought was really sad. So, and I suppose I was just making the point that I think the assumption that everybody will and wants to and should have children, like it equally damages parents. Because if you just assume that everybody's going to do it, it doesn't seem like something that needs kind of help or support or encouragement or practical help, I suppose. So everybody kind of gets lost in the pronatalism. And the other thing then is that like other achievements are just basically seen as consolation. So if you're not having a child, you might do wonderful things. You might travel the whole world, but you didn't have kids. And it's really sad. And, you know, that whole thing. So it's just, yeah, I think if we can try and unpack some of that, I'm not fully sure how, but I suppose discussions like this obviously help.
That's a great like issue and challenge, I think, because that definite thing of kids are up here and everything else sort of falls underneath that. And, you know, there's so much, I mean, you just have to look at how people with kids' lives are in terms of the celebrations and so forth that are all centered around kids and stuff. But I don't think ever recall anyone throwing me a birthday party because I went to New York or I wrote a book or I, you know, did any of that. That was just, oh yeah, good on you. And it's sort of, I suppose, I feel like a lot of times it is treated a bit like a consolation prize. It's like, oh yeah, that's great. You didn't get that. So yeah, okay, you're doing those things. And again, that comes back down to the conversations and the dialogue in society, right?
Yeah. And even I think then sometimes there's an expectation that you have to be doing something like really spectacular with your life if you're not having children, and like you don't. You can sit on your couch in your pajamas and be really happy. But maybe that's not Instagrammable enough. I don't know. But yeah, so there's lots of aspects to it. Yeah.
Grace, you were going to say something on that?
Yeah. I'd love to just respond to Margaret. We have a series that you can find on our website, which is myselfishlife.com, and it's called the Accomplished Series. And so we decided to profile every woman we could find, and we're still looking for more, so send them on in. People who have accomplished great things, but have not had children. We have, I think, close to 100 at this point, and with a little quote from them. Now, not everyone in this series is necessarily child-free. We don't know a lot of these people, but the point is universally, women should be having children above all else. And these women did not. And wow, one of them became an astronaut, and another one became a Supreme Court justice, and another one became this scientist who helped decode DNA. So it's a good series. I really like it. But yes, you can actually sit on your couch and watch Netflix all day if you want. Also, there's no crime. And I'm quoting someone in the film who says that. So we're going to be addressing that. But that's also a perfectly fine choice.
Isabel, do you want to add anything to that?
There is Isabel.
I do. I'm here.
Oh, okay. Oh, hi. Awesome.
Hi. Yeah, I wanted to add something to that. I think there's this concept of legacy attached to having children. So this is my legacy to the world, you know? And so when we decide not to have kids, many people are asking us, so what's your legacy going to be? Like, what are you going to leave to the world? And like you said, if you don't want to do something grand with your life, you don't have to. There's a lot of pressure on people who are child-free to leave something behind because we're not having any kids, so we might as well do something very big. And feeling pressured for that is also, to me, is a little bit of bullying, if you ask me. It feels like, why is it that I have to do something with my life that you're going to be comfortable with? You know, it doesn't make any sense. It's my life. I'll do whatever I want with it. Thank you very much.
Exactly. You're so selfish, Isabel. You're just a selfish
oh yes,
person.
I'm so selfish.
It's your life. You choose to do. If you want to go and have a fantastic career and do all these amazing things, do it. If you want to sit on the couch and watch Netflix or like play with dogs, do it. Like, no one should be judging anyone for their choices around any of this. And it's just, yeah, I totally agree that you don't have to be, when you say that, Margaret, you don't have to be doing these amazing things just because you chose not to have children. You can just chill and have a great old life.
And guess what? Whatever choice we make, someone's going to tell us that we chose incorrectly. As women, we can never quite do the right thing. And this is also in the film, but I interviewed my mother. And when she was pregnant with me, she was told she was being selfish for having a child.
Really?
Yeah, really. So there's no winning this game. So, you know, it's better just not to play because we can't.
Now, that's a comment that you very rarely hear. Someone telling someone that they're selfish for having children. Like, you never hear that.
You'll have to watch the film to find out the rest of the story. But yeah, yeah. So yeah,
wow.
We can't do it right. Whatever we do, so fuck them all.
Context of people like who are mothers, you know, they get told that they're wrong if they don't breastfeed, or if they have a cesarean instead of having a natural birth, or if they raise their children a certain way. So even if you are a mother, you still continually get criticized because of the choices that you're making in the way that you raise your children or have your children or whatever it might be. And you know, I don't understand that. It's just like, why can't she wants to have a cesarean, she can have a cesarean and bottle feed, and like, who cares? It impacts no one else. Like, I don't understand society's issue with wanting to get involved so much in other people's lives and having such a huge opinion around stuff that just doesn't impact them.
Also, you only have one child? You should have 2 children. I hear that all the time from parents.
Why do you have 5 children? That's just crazy. Like, yeah, you can't win. You literally cannot win. Cool.
Yeah.
Does anyone else have anything else they want to say or they want to share?
How have you all maneuvered? Like, I feel like everybody assumes that, you know, we just have a ton of time. You know, we don't have kids. And so, you know, if someone needs to help out, it should just be us because we're the people who, we both have careers. And then, you know, so I just feel like, you know, with my husband's family, he has 2 siblings. Both of them are not quite as sturdy. One of them's a single mom. She is busier. I agree. He has special needs. There's a lot going on there. I understand, but I feel like everything always falls on us, and I don't want to be, it's not that I don't want to contribute. I just feel like, you know, we always get that brunt of it because
yeah,
apparently we have nothing better to do, but
I mean, I think that's probably a common thing with anyone that's child free is, oh, you've got plenty of time. You don't have children. That's the, yeah, but they forget that, well, I choose how to spend my time as well. And if I want to choose to sit by the pool and read a book all day, then that's valuable to me, just like it's valuable to spend for you to spend time with your children. So it's there. I think there can be a lot of judgment and expectation around, oh, plenty of time, you don't have kids, and it's wrong. It's certainly not right.
Because I feel bad.
Yeah.
It's true. You know, while they're at home dealing with all of the homeschool stuff, that's a lot of work. And I will plan after I get off of this to make a cheeseburger and go sit on the porch. So, you know, then I do feel guilty. I don't know how to not feel guilty.
Never feel guilty for choices. You should never feel guilty for that. You've chosen what's right for you. They've chosen what's right for them. Simple as that. You should never apologize for it.
Sometimes.
Yeah.
I think sometimes.
So apparently, go ahead, Carrie, sorry.
I've actually written about this. I'm a journalist, and I think what I found is a lot of times people don't realize they have these unconscious assumptions. I had to have it out with my family a couple of years ago about paying like $600 to go sleep on the floor at Christmas. And none of them realized how much that annoyed me until I really sat them down and said, look, you're just assuming I have the time, I have the freedom, and I have the money. So it wasn't an easy conversation to have, but it has made the holidays a lot more pleasant for me. I actually wrote a piece about this, and it's one of the ones I got the most feedback from because apparently it touched a nerve with a lot of people.
Where is that published?
Pardon?
Where is that piece published?
That one, you can just find it on my website, which is my name, carriepurcell.com.
Yeah. Cool.
But I think sometimes finding a way to gently point out, like, you are assuming this, and phrasing it differently, but I found that to be helpful with a lot of people assuming I have the time to do everything, when in reality, I'm a New Yorker working 3 jobs and trying to make money as a journalist, which isn't the easiest thing to do, kids or no kids.
Yeah.
I can vouch for Carrie. Yeah.
I think, I mean, there's this misconception that all child-free people have. We have a lot of free time, and we also have like wads of cash just coming out of our pockets. It's crazy. Everyone assumes that we can just like, and even if it was the truth, even if we had a lot of free time and a lot of money, that doesn't mean that they're entitled to any of it. Nobody else is entitled to any of it because it's our time and it is our money. We can do with either one of the two things, whatever we please.
Yeah.
So,
Therese, do you have anything to add?
Yes. To that, no. I do live in a palatial mansion in New York. We have 23 bedrooms and an indoor pool and an outdoor pool. So, you know, the pandemic hasn't been that bad for us because we have 3 acres around the house, and that's been also very nice. Sorry, I'm just being silly. No, nothing to add. That's it.
Yeah, I think there are a lot of assumptions around, child-free people and what our lives look like. And look, I know lots of child-free people, and we all have very different lives. You know, so my life's not the same as the next child-free person, and so forth. They're ridiculous assumptions, but people, I suppose, just go. Well, they make them because I suppose society and social media and all those things impact it because they go, oh, you know, she's child-free and she's this, this, and this. It's like, well, they're all about my choices. You know, we're all different, just like all parents are different.
Yeah. Actually, I will say one thing, which is not having children. We probably do have more money because we're not paying for college and we're not paying for nannies and all of that. So we do. That's also part of the choice. But also, I don't know how many extra hours I've worked in my life because someone had to go pick up their kids at school at 5:30 and I didn't have a family, so I could just stay till 8 or 9. I did that almost every day at a job I had for a year, not compensated, because I don't have anything else to do, and she has a child. So there's stuff on both sides of this conversation.
But you guys, obviously all this money is so we can buy more shoes. That's why we don't have kids. We're thinking about the shoes.
I remember wearing shoes. That was nice. When I wore
Such
shoes.
a luxury.
Yeah.
Sorry. I love it. Anyway, does anyone else have anything they want to share or say before we round up our conversation and come to a conclusion.
Holly and Carrie are raising their hands.
Oh, okay.
I was just going to say about someone said before about the romanticism of having babies, and I think that films and TV are really responsible for that. When we were watching Friends, because it's been on Netflix, and Rachel pops out a baby, and you don't really see Emma that much, you know, like there seems to be these convenient babysitters that come out of nowhere. And I think also, I mean, it happened, Ross's kid as well, barely see it. But I think there's this kind of, the thing about the money is that the media has sort of made us feel as though you find a way when you have a child, you know, with money, that you just find the money for your child, you know, and it's just this, actually, if you sit down and tally up how much it costs, certainly I'm in the UK, having the nursery fees that my friends pay, it's like £700 a month, which is like rent over here, just to get their kids at nursery so they can go to work, you know, and it doesn't tally up for me. It doesn't make sense. And if you look at it logically, why do you make that choice? Why would you make that choice? Why would I make that choice? But I just think that there's a lot of romanticism around it, that it will be okay because you'll have this baby and you're blessed, and oh, you know, when actually, how are you going to pay for it? You know, that really frustrates me. That's, just a pragmatic point about the kiddies.
I will say that people who really want kids figured out for the most part. I mean, I'll tell you, the reason my mother was called selfish was because they were immigrants. They didn't have really much money. My mother was still in university. There were a lot of reasons why she shouldn't have kids, but she and my father wanted me, thank you. And so she did, and she got called selfish, but she finished university, and both my parents got jobs, and they moved out of the shitty immigrant housing that we were in, and they just made decisions on what their priorities were at the time. And I think a lot of people do that. They decide the priority is having a child, and then everything else will come along with that.
Yeah.
You know, there's a saying in Latin American countries, and it translates roughly to every baby comes with a loaf of bread underneath its arm, which means don't worry, having the kid, the money will come somehow. Like, you'll figure it out.
Yeah.
And it's a way to tell women not to, like, don't worry about saving for the kid. You'll be fine. The kid's gonna feed itself. So
I endorse that. Yeah.
It feels very irresponsible to bring a child into the world if you can't pay for it. Like, can't pay for food, education, clothing, and basics. You know.
Yeah.
That's a complicated issue that I'm not going to even wade into right now.
A whole other conversation. I'm going to pose a question. Have role models influence your choice to be child-free? Now, I know, it was raised earlier about having, an auntie and so forth. Can anyone say, oh my God, yes, there are definitely people, whether they are celebrities, whether they are people in your own life, who was a role model for you growing up that you went, okay, I just want to be like them when I get older? Anybody? I know I was certainly influenced as a child of the 80s. I was certainly influenced by pop culture at the time. You had shows like Dallas and Dynasty and Melrose Place and those types of things, and I just wanted to be like Alexis Carrington and Amanda off Melrose Place and those types of characters. I could really relate to them. So for me, I looked up to those type of women going, that's what I want. I want a great career. I want great, beautiful things. I don't want children. I want, all what I saw as success back then. So I think that definitely had a big influence on me growing up. And certainly, I looked at my mum, and I love my mum, and, she was, she stayed at home, she didn't work. So she made that choice, but I saw her life and went, I don't want the same life. I want to choose a different life to that, because to me, that just wasn't a life I ever wanted to have. What about you, Therese?
I was thinking really hard about it. I didn't know anyone who didn't have children, and people thought that was great. I don't remember anyone in my life like that, but I was heavily influenced as a child of the 70s. Rhoda Morgenstern. I don't know if you are all familiar with Mary Richards' best friend, Rhoda Morgenstern, who ended up getting her own show called Rhoda. Yeah. She was a mostly single, childless, child-free artist living in New York. And that was my fondest dream. I think I put it in my high school yearbook that was my ambition. So yeah, Rhoda was a big pop culture influence.
Awesome.
Also, she was Jewish and there were no Jewish people on TV. So that was also kind of nice representation.
Isabel, any strong influences for you?
Well, I wouldn't call them strong, because I don't think I can think of, like, when you posed that question, I was like, did I have like a role model? And I just started thinking back. But now I think maybe one of the pop culture figures that I was like, I want that life, was Samantha from Sex and the City.
Oh yeah.
She was definitely child free. She was like a kid hater. She was like, nope, babies out. I want all the clothes, all the shoes, all the glamour. I want to, like, you know. And I used to watch this series. Series, and I would never like felt connected to Carrie or any other of the ladies there. It was always Samantha. So maybe she had a little bit of influence, but as her character, not her as a person. Yeah.
Certainly think that in terms of child-free role models in the media or on TV shows are very few and far between. So I'd love to see them making more shows where there are more child-free by choice men and women, and they are vocal about their choice and sharing the lifestyle and that sort of thing. I think that is something that is most certainly lacking on our screens.
Oh yeah, it's getting better.
Yeah. Are you finding, I mean, I know here, I mean, well, certainly we've got Netflix, but we don't get all the shows that you guys get, I don't think. How are you guys seeing much in terms of not just documentaries, but actual like fictional type shows that have more child-free characters over there, or anywhere, like Ireland, England, wherever you are?
I think the great child-free woman is on Grey's Anatomy, Christina Yang.
Oh yes,
Sandra Oh.
Sandra Oh.
Who really, you know, thanks to Shonda Rhimes and her writing room, had her stick to her guns. She knew who she was. She knew what she wanted. There was no like Big Bang Theory style reversal, like, oops, I've been saying for 7 seasons I don't want children, but now I'm pregnant. Oh, great. Which was terrible. I think a lot of the other characters are not really lead characters, but some of you might think of others. This Is Us has a child-free character who, when it came down to it, told her boyfriend that it wasn't going to happen because she didn't want kids.
I haven't heard of that show.
This Is Us. Yeah. I don't know. Some of you all may have other ideas on this. I'm drawing a blank at the moment.
Does anyone else have any comments or thoughts around that?
I'm not a huge pop culture consumer right now, just because I canceled all of my streaming. But it seems like we see a lot of women who don't have kids, but they're not presented as child-free. It's not presented as not ever. It's always presented as not at the moment. That, oh, you know, maybe at some future point in their lives, they're going to settle down and have kids. So, but yeah, I remember watching the end of Big Bang Theory, and I was never a huge fan of that show, but a bunch of my friends and I watched that last episode, and we were screaming at the screen because we were so angry.
I don't watch the show, but I can remember there was so much media around it, so much conversation and comment about how wrong it was, how it ended, and so forth. So, and that's one of my pet peeves as well, where they position this person, and they do it in movies and stuff all the time, where it's like this person doesn't want kids, and all of a sudden they something happens and they decide to have children, and they all live happily ever after, and all this sort of rubbish. And it's like, well, how did they help them being so adamantly against kids, and the way that they portray it is negative. So I think the portrayal of all this needs to really change on the big screen.
Yeah, I mean, I think the good news there is there was a huge outcry when that character in Big Bang Theory, spoiler, you know, got pregnant. There was a huge, massive outcry. People lost their shit over that, which I think is wonderful, like wonderful progress, that people are like, no, that's wrong. That the producers wanted them to have like a happily ever after, and I'm quoting the producers here. which meant making her husband happy and giving him a baby. But I'm happy when I see all of this backlash, because it means that things have shifted. You know, things have shifted. We're not going, oh, how sweet, that's so great, they have a baby.
No. I think it was very mediocre writing, to be honest. And because it was just so sudden as well. Like, she'd been saying for a long time she didn't want kids. But when we were talking about characters, what one came to mind as well, and is Brianna from Grace and Frankie. She's also a child-free character.
Yes.
Love Brianna.
She's so funny. Like, I love that. Grace and Frankie are awesome. Like, the whole series is awesome, but Brianna as a child-free character is hilarious. So, and they kept true to that.
I love her. I think she's fantastic. Because she's so adamant about, I think she calls her sister's kids thing 1 and thing 2 or something. I know that's not very respectful, but it's very funny the way that she does it.
She's very funny.
Cool. Does anyone else have anything to say before we go to looking at some conclusions?
Carrie wanted to say something.
Carrie?
Yeah, hi. I actually had a question. This conversation has been so great to be a part of, and listening to all of you has actually made me realize something that I do that I'd love some feedback on how to stop doing. My decision to be child-free it comes from many reasons, one of which being that I've survived a lot of medical 4-letter words, including cancer, and I don't want to pass along my DNA. It's not the only reason, but it is one of them. And I found that if I mention I had cancer, people think it's okay that I don't want kids. And I'd love any feedback on how you don't fall into that trap of sort of making an excuse for yourself to make other people stop looking at you like you're crazy. Because I found I do that and just sort of realized I do that listening to all of you talk.
I think for me, I just think you need to just own your choice and be confident about your choice to be child-free, and not feel like you have to make excuses for it to anyone else. I just think you just need to, I know I've always just owned it, and if someone didn't like it, that's on them, not me. So if someone has an issue with your choice, you shouldn't have to bring up the fact that you've had cancer or you've had any sort of medical issues to then make it viable. You know what I mean? That does, I just think be brave, be courageous, stand by your choice, and don't think you ever have to justify it to anybody. That's just what I
was sick at a very young age, and I grew up in the Bible Belt. So I think I sort of fell into that habit in my very early 20s when I had cancer, and all my friends were getting married at 22 and didn't realize it was a habit until just recently.
Therese?
Yeah. Well, I agree. You don't owe anyone an explanation. I've just been using because I don't want them. I'm standing there silently until the conversation continues. But there's something interesting happening now. A lot of people are talking about not having children because of, excuse me, climate change, overpopulation, all of the environmental issues that are, especially for younger folks, a really big deal, and often cited for a reason not to have children, or seriously considering not to have children. And I find that is acceptable. It's the morally acceptable reason.
Yeah.
Which is fascinating to me. And I do often ask people, if the world was perfect in every way, would you then have a child? And they usually say, no, actually, I wouldn't. So it's a strange situation, but you could just say climate. People generally just go, oh, thank you for your sacrifice. But yeah, I mean, nobody owes anyone anything. Although if you want to make them really uncomfortable, you could say, I had cancer, and just stare at them and see how that works. Everyone's got their own style and tolerance.
Yeah.
Isabel,
Or you could just tell them, just in case there's another pandemic and I don't want to be a part of that.
I would definitely agree with Tanya and Therese, in the sense that it first starts with yourself and just owning your choice and knowing that this is what you want for your life, and nobody can come here and you know, what do you say? I can't remember this word, but like ask you about it in a very like nosy and uncomfortable way, I would say, because people, I mean, nobody else is going to live your life for you. It's yours. So having people make judgment on what you decide or not, it's just wrong. So yeah, I would definitely just say when people ask me, I say I just don't want them. But if you really want to make someone uncomfortable, if they're a parent, if they ask you, why did you have children? You can ask them, why did you have children?
Oh, that's a good one too.
They'll most of the time they don't have a straight answer to that.
Yeah.
Thank you everyone.
That's a good one. Okay, Therese and Isabel, I'm going to throw back to you to come to make a final statement. As you know, obviously on this topic of nature versus nurture. Therese, would you like to make a final statement?
Sure. Was I on nurture or nature?
Nature.
You're
sorry, I'm being very silly. I think my statement is that we all exist on a spectrum. And some of us feel very strongly about not having children, or feel very strongly about having children, and the rest of us are sort of in the middle. And sometimes we're going in this direction or this direction, and sometimes you spend your whole life thinking you want children, you can't have them for whatever reason, you come to terms with it, and then you start identifying as child-free. I mean, it's really a spectrum, which is why I sometimes feel like there's sort of this animosity, which I don't think should be there, because our lives, maybe I am arguing nurture, I don't know, but yeah, we're all on a spectrum, and it's really hard to parse out why we do the things we do. I think everyone has their own story. Everyone should tell their own story. And I'm just going to leave it at there.
Awesome. Isabel.
Well, Therese just took all the words out of my mouth. Yeah, I was going to say.
Just turn into just a mutual conversation. Like, yeah, that's great. I agree with that. Yeah, that's good. Like it's.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I don't think that the whole nurture versus nature debate is black and white, because everyone has a different reality. Like I said, I for one know I am 100% nurture, but I have met women who claim to be 100% nature, and there's no reason for me to question that, you know, if that's the way they have felt during their whole life. So I think we just need to understand that everyone's different, and just as there are like many types of parents, there's also many types of child-free people. And, you know, we live in just different realities depending on what we've experienced and what we want for our own lives. So it's all about the fact that we know that we made a choice, and that is the choice that is the best for us, whatever reason it is.
Cool.
And if that for any reason changes as you go through your life, that's okay too.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. Carly has her hand up. Carly, would you like to ask a question?
Hi. Well, I was just going to kind of play devil's advocate on the climate change thing, because that actually is one of the like 5,251 reasons that I don't want to have kids. But I feel like saying that to a parent is basically saying, well, why are you such an asshole that you would bring a child into a burning planet?
I love that. Love your directness.
I'm not saying don't say it, because I do believe that. I'm like borderline antinatalist. But if you want to maintain a good relationship with your friend, I maybe wouldn't say that.
Yeah, but you make a very valid point. Thank you for sharing, Carly. Cool. Okay, so I think we've raised some great points in this very juicy conversation. When we look at the evidence that's being presented by sociologists and scientists over the years, it seems that a combination of both nature and nurture actually impact a person's choice to be child-free. Now, I think, you know, that there is no clear winner in this conversation. I think maybe nature is perhaps fighting nurture a little bit, a bit like a chicken and the egg. Scientists have shown that character traits assumed to be environmental can in fact be inheritable traits. Genetics plays a role, as does environment. And even if we can see that DNA accounts for 70% of our character traits, the remaining 30% can make up the 100% of that difference. So I think maternal instincts and things like the biological clock has nothing to do with biology and is totally a social construct. However, when it comes to not wanting children, the answer is not clearly one or the other, or maybe that just varies person to person. Genes or environment, nature or nurture, however it happens, the main thing is that you are living a life of your choosing and doing what is right for you. Big thank you to Therese and stay tuned for the release of My So-Called Selfish Life, and make sure you follow Therese's social channels and get the updates of when that's happening. Make sure you tune into the Honest Uproar podcast because Isabel is going to continue sharing the stories of other child-free women. So wherever you are in the world, I thank you for taking the time to join in this discussion and celebrate part of your Child-Free International Day with us. Happy International Child-Free Day, everybody. And what I always say is never let anyone dull your sparkle. Thank you very much for everyone. Therese and Isabel. Therese, you were going to make a bit of a plug for a couple of things as well. Do you want to share that?
Yeah. Yes, I really do. So tomorrow, which is International Child-Free Day in New York City, there is an Instagram account called Stoop Stories, stoop.stories, run by Marge Kleiman. She interviews different people on her stoops, on their stoops. It's really wonderful. And she asked if she could interview me about International Child-Free Day tomorrow. So I'm going to be introducing the world to International Child-Free Day at Stoop Stories Live on Instagram. And then the other thing I wanted to say was you can just sort of find everything to do with the film, with our social media channels, resources. We have a video series, 24 videos that were sent in by different people in the audience. They're awesome. And we welcome yours as well. We're still building the collection. So everything is at myselfishlife.com. So if you go to myselfishlife.com, you can see all sorts of goodies, get on the mailing list, everything. So yeah. Thanks.
Isabel?
Thank you.
Plug, share.
Well, I have a podcast, a special International Child-Free Day podcast episode coming up a little bit later today because we wanted to have it in this time where it wasn't too late for Australia, because Tanya is actually my guest in that special podcast about International Child-Free Day. So it's coming out soon. You can go. Yay. So it's the Honest Uproar podcast. We're on like all across all the platforms you can listen to podcasts, and you can also visit my website, theuprising.spark.com. You can also find a tab there for the podcast, and there's also more resources. And yeah, you know, it's been a wonderful conversation. Thank you so much to all the women who are here participating today. I've had a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's been fantastic. Thank you, everyone. Thank you again, Isabel and Therese, for being part of it. Wherever you are in the world, have a fabulous day. And yeah, we'll see everybody later.
Happy Child-Free Day.
Happy International Child-Free Day.